The sun was shining bright over New Haven Colony when everything changed. Children were playing in the schoolyard, laughing and running around like they did every day. Emma Collins was on the swings, her blonde hair flying behind her as she went higher and higher. Tyler Bradford was playing catch with Lucas Perry near the fence. Sophie Green and Maya Hudson were drawing pictures with chalk on the ground. Then it happened. A strange sound filled the air like a low humming that made everyone's teeth hurt. The teachers looked around, confused and worried. Before anyone could understand what was happening, there was a bright flash of blue light. When the light faded, 5 children were gone. Just gone. Emma, Tyler, Sophie, Lucas, and Maya had vanished into thin air. Captain Jake Morrison was in his office when the emergency call came through. He was a tall man with short brown hair and tired eyes from too many long nights. He commanded the Colonial Defense Force on New Haven, and in his 3 years there, nothing serious had ever happened. Until now. "Captain, we have a situation at the school," the voice on his radio said. The panic in those words made Jake's blood run cold. He ran to his vehicle and drove to the school as fast as he could. When he arrived, he saw crying parents and scared teachers standing in groups. The principal, an older woman named Mrs. Patterson, was trying to calm everyone down, but she looked just as frightened as everyone else. Jake started asking questions. Nobody saw anyone take the children. There were no strange vehicles, no suspicious people walking around. The children were just there one moment and gone the next. It made no sense. Dr. Helen Price arrived an hour later. She was the colony's chief scientist, a smart woman with glasses and always messy red hair. She brought equipment to scan the area where the children disappeared. Jake watched her work, hoping she would find something. Anything that could help. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Helen said after 30 minutes of scanning. She showed him her tablet screen. "These are energy readings. This kind of signature doesn't come from any human technology. This is advanced teleportation, way beyond what we can do." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Aliens took our children?" Helen nodded slowly. "That's what it looks like." Within 2 hours, more reports came in. Other colonies were calling with the same story. Children vanishing in blue light, no trace left behind. The numbers kept growing. 17 colonies reported missing children. 63 children total were gone. Admiral Richard Kane called an emergency meeting with everyone in charge of human space defense. Jake joined the video conference from New Haven. The admiral was an older man with gray hair and a face that had seen too many wars. He looked angry and worried at the same time. "This is not random," the admiral said. "Someone is targeting our children specifically. We need answers, and we need them now." Ambassador Lisa Morgan spoke next. She was humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, a group of 12 alien species that ran most of known space. Lisa was a sharp woman who never missed details. "I'm calling an emergency council meeting. The other species might know something about this." The council meeting happened 6 hours later. Jake watched it on the news feeds. Lisa stood in front of representatives from 12 different alien species. Some looked like reptiles, others like insects, and some were so strange that Jake couldn't describe them. Lisa showed them the evidence and asked for help finding the children. The aliens looked uncomfortable. They shifted in their seats and avoided eye contact. The chairman, a tall being with purple skin called a Veylan, said they would investigate. But Jake could tell they were lying. They knew something. Lieutenant Commander Peter Hughes was working in intelligence back on Earth. He was good at finding information that people wanted to hide. Peter started digging through black market channels, talking to information brokers who dealt in secrets. After 2 days of searching, Peter found something. A broker told him about a species called the Zelthani. They were collectors who captured rare creatures from across the galaxy and sold them to rich buyers. The Zelthani had been operating for thousands of years, but they never touched species that belonged to the Galactic Council. Until now, why would they target humans? Peter asked the broker. "Because you're new," the broker replied. "You only joined the council 15 years ago. Maybe they think nobody will care enough to start a war over you." Peter sent his findings to Admiral Kane and Jake Morrison. When Jake read the report, his hand started shaking with rage. These aliens had taken human children to sell them like animals, and the Galactic Council probably knew it could happen. Jake couldn't just sit and wait for politicians to argue about what to do. He put together a team of volunteers. Nicole Davis joined first. She was the best weapons expert on New Haven, a tough woman with dark skin and eyes that missed nothing. Ryan Cooper was next, a pilot who could fly anything with engines. Dr. Alan Foster signed up as their medic. He was quiet but reliable. Greg Palmer, a young tech genius with messy black hair, completed the team. "We need a ship," Jake said. "I know where we can get one," Ryan replied with a slight smile. They took the Valiant, a fast frigate that was supposed to be in maintenance. Jake didn't ask for permission. He just took it. By the time anyone noticed, they were already leaving New Haven's orbit. Admiral Kane found out about the unauthorized departure, but he didn't order them back. Instead, he sent Jake a private message. "Bring our children home. I'll handle the paperwork." The Valiant jumped to hyperspace, heading for the Outer Rim territories. Greg Palmer had tracked down the location of a Zelthani trading post called Trade Haven. It was a lawless space station where criminals and smugglers did business. If anyone knew where the children were, it would be someone there. As Jake stood on the bridge watching the stars streak by, he made a silent promise. He would find those children. He would bring them home. And whoever took them would regret the day they decided to mess with humanity. Nicole stood beside him, checking her weapons. "You think we can pull this off? Just the 5 of us?" Jake looked at her and nodded. "We have to. Those kids are counting on us." The Valiant flew through space, a small ship on a dangerous mission. Behind them, Admiral Kane was mobilizing the entire Earth defense fleet. Across human space, parents were demanding action. The news was covering the story constantly. Everyone wanted answers. But Jake wasn't waiting for the fleet or the politicians. He was going to get answers himself, no matter what it took. Trade Haven was everything Jake expected and worse. The space station looked like someone had welded together 100 different ships and called it a building. Lights flickered in broken patterns, and the docking bays smelled like fuel and something rotten. This was where criminals came to hide from the law. Ryan guided the Valiant into a docking bay carefully. "Keep your weapons close," he said. "People get killed here for looking at someone wrong." The team split up to cover more ground. Jake and Alan went to the lower markets. Nicole headed to the cantinas where information brokers gathered. Ryan and Greg stayed with the ship to monitor communications and watch their backs. The lower markets were crowded with beings from dozens of species. Jake saw aliens selling weapons, drugs, stolen technology, and things he couldn't identify. Everyone looked dangerous. Everyone watched everyone else with suspicious eyes. Alan stayed close to Jake. The doctor wasn't a fighter, but he was brave. "How do we even start looking?" he asked quietly. "We ask questions and hope someone talks," Jake replied. They approached a vendor selling ship parts. The alien had 4 arms and green skin that looked like leather. Jake showed him a credit chip worth more than the alien probably made in a month. "I'm looking for the Zelthani. Know where I can find them?" The vendor's eyes went wide. He grabbed the credit chip and pointed down a dark corridor. "3rd level, red sector. But you don't want to go there, human. The Zelthani don't like questions." Meanwhile, Nicole found what she was looking for. A cantina called the Broken Wing was known as a place where information could be bought. She walked in like she owned the place, her hand never far from her gun. The cantina was dark and smoky. Aliens of every type sat at tables drinking and talking in low voices. Nicole spotted a Zelthani in the corner. The creature looked like a tall insect with too many arms and black eyes that reflected no light. She walked straight to its table and sat down without asking. The Zelthani stared at her with those dead black eyes. "I'm looking for information," Nicole said, sliding credits across the table. The Zelthani didn't touch the money. "I don't talk to humans." Nicole smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "You will talk to me or I'll make sure everyone in this station knows you're cooperating with human military." "How long do you think you'd survive after that?" The Zelthani's mandibles clicked together nervously. It was a bluff, but a good one. After a long moment, the creature took the credits. "What do you want to know?" "Your people took human children. Where are they?" The Zelthani was quiet for so long that Nicole thought it wouldn't answer. Then it spoke very quietly. "The Harvester left 6 days ago. Collection ship. Heading to Kalari sector. That's all I know. Who bought them?" "Crime lord named Kuroth. He collects rare things. Your children are rare to him." Nicole felt sick but kept her face calm. "Thank you for your cooperation." She stood up to leave. "Human," the Zelthani called after her. "Your people shouldn't have joined the council. The galaxy is crueler than you know." Back on the Valiant, the team gathered to share information. Greg had been busy hacking into the station's communication network. What he found made everyone angry. I intercepted messages between council representatives, Greg said, his face pale. They knew. They knew the Zelthani might target us and they didn't warn anyone. What? Alan couldn't believe it. Why wouldn't they warn us? Greg pulled up the messages on the screen. The Zelthani provide medical compounds that several council species need. Rare stuff that only they can supply. The council decided that warning humanity might disrupt trade agreements. They gambled with our children's lives for money. Jake felt rage building in his chest. The Galactic Council, the organization that was supposed to protect all member species, had sacrificed human children for profit. They had let this happen. Ryan was already plotting a course. The Kalari sector is 2 days away at maximum speed. We need to move now. Jake contacted Admiral Kane with their findings. The Admiral's face went red with anger when he heard about the Council's betrayal. Pull all our ambassadors out of Council space. The Admiral ordered someone off screen. And mobilize the fleet. If the Council won't help us, we'll do this ourselves. The news spread across human space within hours. People were furious. Protests erupted outside alien embassies. The human government issued a statement withdrawing from all Council activities until the children were returned safely. The Valiant pushed its engines hard, racing toward the Kalari sector. Greg worked constantly, trying to track the Harvester's energy signature. Dr. Helen Price back on Earth had sent him new scanning software designed specifically to detect Zelthani teleportation technology. On the second day, they found something. A damaged transport ship drifting near an asteroid field. The ship was barely holding together with holes in its hull and no power. Could be a trap, Nicole warned. Could be answers, Jake replied. Greg, can you scan it? Greg ran his equipment over the ship. No life signs. It's dead in space, but there's data in the computer core. They docked with the transport carefully. Jake and Nicole went aboard wearing spacesuits just in case. The ship was a mess inside. Everything was broken or burned. Whatever happened here had been violent. Greg accessed the computer remotely from the Valiant. He pulled out the ship's logs and started going through them. His hand stopped moving when he found the right files. Jake, you need to hear this, Greg said over the radio. He played a recording. It was Zelthani voices speaking in their clicking language, but the computer translated it to English. The recording talked about the collection, about human children being easier to take than expected, about keeping them in stasis pods for transport. Then the voices discussed the buyer. Kuroth, a crime lord who operated in the frontier zones, territories outside council control. He collected exotic beings and kept them as displays in his fortress. He had paid a fortune for the human children. The recording also mentioned the Harvester's route. They were heading to a hidden station in the frontier zones to transfer the cargo before delivering it to Kuroth. We can intercept them, Ryan said, already calculating. If we push the engines past safety limits, we can get there first. Do it, Jake ordered. The Valiant accelerated, engines burning hot. They had maybe 20 hours before the Harvester reached the transfer station. 20 hours to plan a rescue. Nicole spent the time checking every weapon on the ship. Alan prepared medical supplies for the children. Greg worked on a plan to hack the Harvester's systems. Ryan studied the ship's layout that Greg found in stolen Zelthani files. Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Emma and Tyler and the other children. Were they scared? Did they know anyone was coming for them? He had to believe they were okay. He had to believe they would get there in time. 12 hours from their destination, sensors picked up something. 3 ships were following them. Zelthani patrol vessels. They know we're coming, Nicole said. The patrol ships opened fire without warning. Energy blasts hit the Valiant's shields, making the whole ship shake. Ryan threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, dodging and weaving through space. Return fire, Jake ordered. Nicole unleashed the Valiant's weapons. Human military technology was designed for war, built from centuries of conflicts on Earth. The railguns fired solid slugs at incredible speed. The plasma torpedoes burned through shields like paper. The first Zelthani ship exploded in a ball of fire. The other 2 tried to run, but Ryan was faster. He brought the Valiant around and Nicole destroyed them both. The Zelthani just learned something, Ryan said grimly. Humans know how to fight. The Valiant continued toward its destination, leaving burning wreckage behind. Jake stood on the bridge watching the stars. They were getting close now. Soon they would face the harvester itself. Get some rest, he told his team. We're going to need everyone sharp for what comes next. But Jake didn't rest. He stood there thinking about the children and making plans. The Zelthani had made a terrible mistake. They thought humans were weak because humanity valued peace. They were about to learn the difference between being peaceful and being harmless, and that lesson was going to hurt. The harvester was enormous. As the Valiant approached the collection ship, Jake realized it was 10 times the size of any human vessel he had ever seen. The ship looked like a massive cargo container with weapons attached to it. Hundreds of windows dotted its surface, each one probably looking into a cell or containment area. That thing could hold thousands of prisoners, Alan said quietly, his face pale. Ryan brought the Valiant to a stop behind a small moon, keeping them hidden from the harvester's sensors. We can't fight that head-on. Their weapons would tear us apart. Greg was already working on his computer, his fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm scanning their systems. Their security is good but not perfect. I think I can get us inside without triggering alarms. We need a plan, Jake said, gathering his team around the table in the ship's common room. Nicole and Alan, you're going in. We'll use one of the stolen Zelthani shuttles we picked up at Trade Haven. Greg will guide you through their security systems. Ryan and I will stay on the Valiant ready to provide backup. Nicole loaded her weapons while Alan packed medical supplies. What happens after we get the kids? Nicole asked. We blow that ship to pieces, Jake replied coldly. 2 hours later, Nicole and Alan were flying the Zelthani shuttle toward the harvester. The shuttle's identification codes were stolen, so the harvester's security system let them approach without question. They docked at a maintenance bay and the airlock opened. The interior of the harvester was cold and smelled like chemicals. Long corridors stretched in every direction, lit by dim blue lights. Through windows in the walls, Nicole and Alan could see cells filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds. This is horrible, Alan whispered. He saw beings locked in cages, some crying, some just staring at nothing. The Zelthani weren't just collecting humans. They were collecting anyone they could take. Greg's voice came through their earpieces. Go left at the next intersection. The human children are being held in Stasis Chamber 7, 3 levels down. They moved carefully through the ship. Twice they had to hide when Zelthani crew members walked past. The insect-like aliens didn't seem to notice anything wrong. They were confident in their ship's security. The stasis chamber was behind a locked door. Greg hacked it open remotely and Nicole and Alan slipped inside. The room was filled with glowing pods arranged in neat rows. Each pod held a sleeping figure. Alan ran to the nearest pod and looked inside. It was Emma Collins. She was sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of where she was. Alan checked the pod's readings. She's okay. They're all okay. The stasis is keeping them safe. They found all 63 children. Tyler, Sophie, Lucas, Maya, and 58 others from different colonies. All of them sleeping in the pods, waiting to be sold like objects. We need to wake them up, Nicole said. She was setting explosive charges around the room, enough to cripple the ship's systems when they detonated. Alan started the wake-up process on the pods. This will take 10 minutes. They need to wake up slowly or it could hurt them. We might not have 10 minutes, Nicole replied, but she kept working on the explosives. On the Valiant, Ryan suddenly shouted, Jake, we have incoming ships. Multiple hyperspace signatures. Jake looked at the sensors and felt his heart jump. It wasn't enemy ships. It was the Earth Defense Fleet. Admiral Kane had arrived with 12 destroyers, 4 cruisers, and his flagship, the massive carrier Endeavour. The Admiral's face appeared on the communication screen. Captain Morrison, I believe you could use some help. Jake couldn't help smiling. Good timing, Admiral. Admiral Kane's expression turned hard. All ships target the Harvester. Zelthani vessel. This is Admiral Richard Kane of the Earth Defense Fleet. Release the human children immediately, or we will destroy you. On the Harvester's bridge, Captain Vexlar watched the human fleet with his black eyes. He was an old Zelthani who had been collecting specimens for 300 years. He had faced threats before, always from weaker species who couldn't back up their words. He activated his ship's weapon systems. These humans are naive, Vexlar said to his crew. They don't understand how the galaxy works. Show them. The Harvester's weapons powered up, massive energy cannons designed to destroy asteroids and small moons. Vexlar was confident. His ship was bigger, older, and had survived countless battles. He was wrong about humans. The human fleet opened fire as one. Railgun slugs traveling at incredible speed slammed into the harvester's shields. Plasma torpedoes created explosions that lit up space like small suns. The humans weren't testing the harvester's defenses. They were trying to destroy it completely. Vexlar's confidence died as his shield started failing. "Return fire! All weapons!" The harvester's cannons fired back, but human ships were fast and well-trained. They dodged most shots and their shields absorbed the rest. Within 3 minutes, the harvester's shields collapsed completely. The massive ship was defenseless. Inside the stasis chamber, Nicole and Alan felt the ship shaking from the impacts. The children were starting to wake up. Emma Collins opened her eyes first, confused and scared. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice small and frightened. Alan knelt beside her pod. "You're safe now. We're taking you home." The other children started waking up, all of them confused and scared. Tyler Bradford started crying. Sophie Green asked for her mother. Nicole helped them out of the pods while Alan checked each child to make sure they were healthy. "We need to move now," Nicole said. "This ship is falling apart." Alan gathered the younger children while Nicole led the way. They moved through the corridors toward the shuttle bay, a line of 63 children between 2 adults. Some of the older kids helped carry the younger ones. They passed more cells full of prisoners. Nicole made a decision. "Greg, can you unlock all the cells?" "Nicole, we don't have time," Greg replied over the radio. "Make time. We're not leaving anyone here." Greg hesitated, then started hacking. Throughout the harvester, cell doors began opening. Hundreds of prisoners from dozens of species started running for escape pods and shuttle bays. The Zelthani crew panicked as their ship descended into chaos. Nicole's explosives detonated, sending shockwaves through the harvester. The ship's engines died. Lights flickered and went out. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Jake guided Nicole and Alan back to their shuttle using sensors. "Shuttle Bay 3 is closest. Go there now." They ran, children stumbling and crying but keeping up. The older kids were brave, helping the younger ones. Emma held Sophie's hand tightly. Tyler carried a little boy named Chris who was too scared to walk. The shuttle bay was chaos. Zelthani crew members were trying to evacuate, but Marine teams from the Endeavour were already boarding. The Marines saw Nicole and the children and immediately formed a protective wall around them. "Get these kids on the shuttle," the Marine commander ordered. Nicole and Alan loaded all 63 children onto their shuttle. It was crowded and uncomfortable, but nobody complained. The shuttle launched just as another explosion rocked the harvester. The ship was dying, torn apart by human weapons and internal explosions. Jake guided the shuttle back to the Valiant. The children pressed against the windows, watching the massive harvester break into pieces. Some cried, some were quiet, but all of them were safe. When the shuttle docked with the Valiant, Jake was waiting. Emma Collins was the first one off the shuttle. She looked at Jake with big, scared eyes. "Are you taking us home?" she asked. Jake knelt down to her level and nodded. "Yes, we're taking all of you home to your families." Emma started crying and hugged him. Soon all the children were crying, releasing the fear and confusion they had been holding inside. Alan and Nicole comforted them while Ryan set course for New Haven. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the screen again. "Well done, Captain Morrison." "All children accounted for?" "All 63, Admiral. They're scared but unharmed." "Good. We've captured the Harvester's command crew. They're going to answer a lot of questions." The Admiral paused. "Jake, I'm getting reports from the captured Zelthani. This wasn't their only collection ship. They have dozens of these vessels operating across the galaxy." Jake felt cold. "How many other species have they done this to?" "We're about to find out. And when we do, the Zelthani are going to wish they had never heard of humanity." The Valiant joined the fleet heading back to human space. Behind them, the Harvester floated in pieces, a broken reminder of what happens when someone threatens human children. But Jake knew this was just the beginning. The Zelthani had started something they couldn't finish. They had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping. Now the galaxy was going to learn what humans were really capable of when pushed too far, and that lesson was going to be written in fire and justice. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything that had happened in the organization's 1,000-year history. The chamber was designed to look impressive, with seats arranged in a circle so all species could see each other as equals. Today, that design meant everyone could see the anger on Ambassador Lisa Morgan's face. Lisa stood in the center of the chamber with the human fleet visible through the windows behind her. 12 destroyers and 4 cruisers orbited the Council station, weapons powered but not aimed. Yet, the message was clear. Humanity was done asking politely for help. Members of the Council, Lisa began, her voice cold and controlled. I stand before you with evidence of the greatest betrayal in this organization's history. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The chairman, a tall Valon named Korath with purple skin and too many fingers, tried to interrupt. Ambassador Morgan, such accusations require proof and proper procedure. Lisa ignored him and activated the holographic display. Video footage appeared in the air above her head. It showed Zelthani operatives teleporting human children from New Haven. It showed the inside of the Harvester with cells full of captives from dozens of worlds. It showed financial records linking Zelthani payments to council members. This is proof, Lisa said, her voice getting harder. The Zelthani have been operating a slave trade for centuries. They have taken sentient beings from across the galaxy and sold them like animals, and the council knew. We knew nothing about this, a reptilian Cortaxi representative named Sessith protested. His scales were turning dark with stress. The Zelthani operated independently. Lisa played another recording. This one showed a council committee meeting from 2 months earlier. The audio was clear. Council members discussing the possibility of Zelthani targeting humans, debating whether to warn Earth's government, deciding that human membership was too new to risk disrupting profitable trade agreements. The chamber went silent. Every species representative could hear their colleagues' voices on the recording. They could hear themselves choosing profit over protecting children. You knew, Lisa said quietly. And somehow that was worse than shouting. You knew they might take our children and you said nothing. You gambled with human lives because the Zelthani supply medical compounds you want. You sold us out for medicine and money. Chairman Korath stood up, trying to take control of the meeting. Ambassador Morgan, this is a complex situation that requires careful discussion and investigation. We must follow proper procedures. Procedures? Lisa's voice rose now. While you were following procedures, 63 human children were being held in cages on a slave ship. While you were having careful discussions, those children were being sold to a crime lord who collects sentient beings like artwork. A small insect-like representative from the Vrixel species spoke up. What would you have us do, Ambassador? The Zelthani are powerful and well-connected. Were, Lisa corrected. They were powerful. Past tense. The Earth Defense Fleet has spent the last 3 weeks hunting down every Zelthani ship and facility we could find. We have destroyed their collection ships, their trading posts, their hidden bases. The Zelthani no longer exist as an organized species. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. Some were outraged at humanity's actions. Others were frightened. A few looked impressed. Lisa let them yell for a minute, then activated another display. This one showed a map of the galaxy with red marks indicating where human ships had attacked Zelthani targets. There were hundreds of marks. In 3 weeks, humanity has done what the Council refused to do in centuries. We have ended the Zelthani slave trade. We have freed thousands of captives from dozens of species, and we did it without asking permission or waiting for approval. President Catherine Walsh appeared on the holographic display, broadcasting from Earth. She was a strong woman in her 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much politics. Today she looked tired but determined. Members of the Galactic Council, President Walsh said formally, Earth is withdrawing from the Council effective immediately. We have lost all faith in this organization's ability or willingness to protect its members. We will not rejoin until real reforms are made, and those responsible for this betrayal face justice. Chairman Korath tried one more time to control the situation. President Walsh, Ambassador Morgan, please reconsider. We can offer reparations for what happened. We can promise reforms. Your promises mean nothing, President Walsh replied coldly. You promised to protect all member species equally. You broke that promise when you let the Zelthani target our children. Words are cheap, Chairman. Only actions matter now. The broadcast ended. Lisa looked around the chamber at the alien representatives. Some looked ashamed. Others looked angry. Most just looked worried about what humanity might do next. Earth will conduct its own investigation into the Zelthani network, Lisa announced. Any species we find was complicit in their operations will face consequences. We will not forget this and we will not forgive it. She walked out of the chamber without waiting for a response. Behind her, the council erupted into arguments and accusations. Species were blaming each other, trying to avoid responsibility. Lisa didn't care. Humanity was done with galactic politics. Back on Earth, Jake Morrison was sitting in a military briefing room with his team. Admiral Kane had promoted him to commander and given him a new mission. They had captured dozens of Zeltani prisoners and extracted information from their computers. That information painted a dark picture of the galaxy. The Zeltani had clients everywhere, Greg explained, pulling up files on the display screen. Crime lords, corrupt officials, even some council representatives bought specimens from them. "We have a list?" Jake asked. "We have a list," Greg confirmed, including the location of Kuroth, the crime lord who ordered the kidnapping of our children. Nicole was cleaning her rifle, preparing it with careful attention. "When do we leave?" Admiral Kane entered the room. "You leave tomorrow. This mission is Black Ops, Commander Morrison. Officially, Earth knows nothing about it. You're going to Kuroth's fortress to arrest him and free any prisoners he's holding." "Arrest?" Nicole asked, sounding disappointed. "Arrest," the Admiral repeated firmly. "We're not murderers. We're justice. There's a difference." Jake's team spent the night preparing. They studied the layout of Kuroth's fortress, an asteroid base in the frontier zones protected by mercenaries and automated defenses. It was designed to be impossible to attack. They were also joined by Commander Beth Harrison and her Marine unit. Beth was a veteran of the border wars, tough as steel with short blonde hair and scars on her hands from too many fights. Her unit was the best humanity had. The raid team left on 3 stealth shuttles before dawn. They flew for 2 days, staying hidden from sensors. When they reached Kuroth's asteroid, they could see why he felt safe. The fortress had shield generators, weapons platforms, and patrol ships constantly circling. "We'll never get through those defenses," one of Beth's Marines said. Jake smiled. "We don't have to. Greg, are you ready?" Greg activated his equipment. "Hacking their security now. Give me 5 minutes." Kuroth sat in his private chamber, looking at his collection with satisfaction. Beings from 40 different species were displayed in cases throughout his fortress. Some were warriors, some were beautiful, some were just rare. He treated them like art, like objects to admire. His security chief, a large alien with 4 arms, entered the room. "Master Kuroth, we have a situation. Our sensors detected stealth ships approaching. Destroy them," Kuroth ordered without looking away from his collection. "The shields are offline, Master. Someone is hacking our systems." Now Kuroth looked, his many eyes focused on his security chief. "That's impossible. Our security is the best in the frontier zones." "It was human technology," the security chief said nervously. "We've never seen anything like it." Before Kuroth could respond, explosions rocked the fortress. The raid team had breached the outer defenses. Beth's Marines poured into the corridors, moving with precision and speed. They had trained for this their entire careers. The mercenaries defending the fortress were good, but they weren't prepared for humans. Human military doctrine was born from centuries of war on Earth. It was aggressive, adaptable, and ruthless when needed. The mercenaries broke under the assault. Jake led his team through the fortress, following the map Greg had pulled from the security systems. They found the collection chamber where Kuroth kept his prisoners. The sight made Jake's blood boil. Sentient beings were locked in glass cases like museum displays. Some had been there for years. Some were crying. Others had given up hope. "Free them all," Jake ordered. While his team broke open the cases and helped the prisoners, Jake went to find Kuroth. The crime lord was trying to escape through a hidden tunnel, carrying a case full of valuables. Jake stepped into the tunnel ahead of him. Kuroth stopped, his insect-like body freezing. He was large, easily twice Jake's size, with sharp mandibles and armored skin. "You're the human," Kuroth said. His voice sounded like grinding rocks. "You've made a mistake coming here. I have powerful friends. They will destroy you for this." Jake pulled up a holographic display on his wrist computer. It showed footage of human ships destroying Zeltani. News of what humanity had done spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every species with access to galactic communication networks heard the story. The Zeltani, slavers who had operated for thousands of years, were gone. Humanity had hunted them to extinction in just 3 months. The reaction was mixed. Some species were terrified. Others were impressed. Many who had suffered under the Zelthani's cruelty felt relief and gratitude. But everyone understood one thing clearly: humanity was dangerous when provoked. The Galactic Council called another emergency session. This time they wanted to condemn humanity's actions as excessive and barbaric. Chairman Korath stood before the assembled representatives and spoke about the importance of restraint and following proper legal procedures. President Catherine Walsh appeared on the holographic display. She had requested time to address the council directly. Chairman Korath couldn't refuse without looking weak, so he allowed it. Members of the council, President Walsh began, you want to condemn us for being excessive. You want to lecture us about proper procedures. Let me tell you what excessive means to humanity. She pulled up images on the display, pictures of the harvester, of children in stasis pods, of beings locked in Kuroth's collection cases. The Zilthani operated for centuries. They took countless beings from dozens of worlds. They sold sentient creatures like property, and the council did nothing. Chairman Korath tried to interrupt. We were unaware of the full extent of their operations. You were aware enough. President Walsh cut him off. You knew they might target humans. You chose not to warn us. You valued trade agreements over children's lives. That's what excessive looks like to us. She changed the display to show human children reunited with their families. Emma Collins hugging her parents. Tyler Bradford crying with joy in his mother's arms. Sophie Green, Lucas Perry, Maya Hudson, all of them home and safe. We didn't ask for this fight. We didn't want to become the galaxy's executioners. But when someone took our children, we had two choices. We could follow proper procedures, file complaints, wait for investigations that would take years and lead nowhere. Or we could act. President Walsh's expression hardened. We chose to act. We chose our children over your comfort. We chose justice over politics. And yes, we were brutal about it, because that's what happens when you threaten humanity's young. We don't defeat you. We don't punish you. We erase you. The council chamber was silent. Representatives from species who had been in power for millennia sat quietly, listening to a lecture from a species that had joined the galactic community just 15 years ago. This is humanity's message to the galaxy, President Walsh continued. Leave us alone and we're peaceful neighbors. We'll trade fairly, share technology, help with disasters, but touch our children, hurt our families, and we will end you, not defeat, end. Your species will become a warning story that parents tell their young. She paused to let that sink in. The Zilthani made the mistake of thinking we were weak because we value peace. They learned too late that our capacity for peace is matched by our capacity for war. Any species considering similar actions should learn from their example. Because there are no more Zilthani left to tell the tale. The broadcast ended. President Walsh had spoken for less than 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes changed everything. The galaxy now understood what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. On New Haven Colony, Jake Morrison stood at a memorial service. A stone monument had been built in the center of town, listing the names of the 63 children who had been taken. Emma Collins stood next to him holding flowers. The girl who had been on the swings that terrible day was different now. She was still young, still innocent in many ways, but there was a wariness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. The galaxy had shown her its cruel side too early. Commander Morrison, Emma said quietly. You can call me Jake, he replied with a gentle smile. Jake, will they try to take us again? Jake knelt down to her level, the way he had on the Valiant 3 months ago. No, Emma, they won't, because now the whole galaxy knows what happens to anyone who tries. Emma placed her flowers at the base of the monument. Other families were doing the same, a long line of people paying respects and giving thanks. The colony had changed too. There were more defense systems now, more soldiers, more vigilance. Admiral Kane had been promoted to Supreme Commander of all human space forces. His first official act was to establish the Child Protection Protocol. Every human ship, station, and colony now operated under one simple rule. Any species that targeted human children, for any reason, would face total war with no possibility of negotiation or mercy. The protocol was programmed into every military computer, every defense system, every AI humanity operated. It couldn't be overridden or ignored. It was absolute. Dr. Helen Price's tracking technology had been refined and deployed across human space. A network of sensor satellites now monitored for any unauthorized teleportation or abduction attempts. Human borders became the most heavily defended in the galaxy, but the real change was in how other species viewed humanity. Before the kidnappings, Humans were seen as naive newcomers, peaceful traders who didn't understand galactic politics. After the extinction of the Zelthani, humans were seen as something else entirely. Jake received messages from species he had never heard of. Some thanked humanity for ending the Zelthani threat. Others shared stories of their own people who had been taken by the slavers over the centuries. Many asked if humans would help them deal with similar threats in their territories. President Walsh's administration had to create a new department just to handle these requests. Humanity was becoming known as protectors, as a species that would stand up to bullies and predators that the Council ignored. Some smaller species approached Earth about forming a new alliance, separate from the Galactic Council. They wanted an organization based on mutual protection and genuine cooperation, not economic convenience. President Walsh was interested but cautious. Humanity had learned hard lessons about galactic politics. 5 years passed. Emma Collins was 12 now, attending school on New Haven like a normal kid. But she wasn't normal, not really. None of the 63 children who had been taken were normal. They all had nightmares sometimes. They all remembered the stasis pods and the fear. The colony held an anniversary memorial service. Jake, now Admiral Morrison, returned for it. He had spent 5 years building humanity's defense forces into something that would make any aggressor think twice. Emma stood at the monument again, older and taller, but still recognizably the girl who had been on the swings. She placed flowers and read the inscription carved into the stone. "They took our children. We took their future. Let this stand as an eternal warning." "Do you think it's working?" Emma asked Jake. "The warning, I mean." Jake looked at the orbital defense platforms visible in the sky above New Haven, massive weapon satellites that could destroy entire fleets. "Yes, it's working. There hasn't been a single attempt to take human citizens since we dealt with the Zelthani." "Good," Emma said simply. The memorial service ended, and people went back to their lives. But everyone remembered. The parents remembered the fear of losing their children. The children remembered being taken. And Jake remembered the promise he had made, to keep humanity's young safe no matter the cost. In a bar on the edge of human space, an alien merchant was having drinks with his young apprentice. The apprentice was eager to expand their trade routes into human territory. "Be careful dealing with humans," the merchant warned. "They're not like other species." "Why? Because they're violent?" the apprentice asked. The merchant shook his head. "No, many species are violent. Humans are dangerous for a different reason. They don't fight for territory or resources like most species. They fight for each other." He pulled up a news article about the Zelthani extinction on his datapad. "See this? The Zelthani took human children to sell them. Humans didn't negotiate, didn't offer ransom, didn't try diplomacy. They just hunted the Zelthani across the entire galaxy and destroyed them. Every ship, every base, every operative. The Zelthani are extinct." The apprentice looked at the article with wide eyes. "All that for children?" "Especially for children," the merchant corrected. "Humans have this thing they call family. It's sacred to them. You can cheat a human in business and they might forgive you. You can insult them and they'll ignore it, but threaten their family, hurt their children, and they don't seek victory. They seek extinction. Your extinction." The apprentice was quiet for a moment. "So we should avoid human space?" "No," the merchant said. "We should trade honestly with them, treat them fairly, and never ever threaten their young. Follow those rules and humans are excellent partners. Break those rules and you become a warning story." Back on Earth in the capital city, a new memorial had been built. It stood in front of the United Nations building, visible to everyone who visited. The monument was simple, a statue of an adult holding a child's hand, protecting them. The inscription repeated the same message as the one on New Haven. "They took our children. We took their future. Let this stand as an eternal warning." But there was an addition, something President Walsh had insisted on. Below the warning were words of hope. "We came to the stars seeking peace." 10 years had passed since the Zelthani extinction. The galaxy was a different place now, shaped by humanity's response to an unforgivable crime. Jake Morrison, now retired from active military service, walked through the memorial park on Earth, a place dedicated to remembering what had happened and why it mattered. The park was beautiful, with trees from a dozen different worlds and flowers that bloomed in colors Earth had never known before joining the galactic community. At the center stood the largest memorial, a wall with the names of every being freed from Zelthani captivity. Human names were mixed with alien ones, showing that humanity's fight had saved more than just their own. Jake came here often, especially on the anniversary of the day the children were taken. Today marked exactly 10 years. Emma Collins would be 17 now, almost an adult. Tyler, Sophie, Lucas, Maya, and all the others were growing up in a galaxy that was safer because of what happened to them. A young couple approached Jake as he stood before the memorial. They were tourists visiting from one of the outer colonies. "Excuse me, are you Admiral Morrison?" the woman asked nervously. Jake smiled. I'm retired now. Just Jake." "We wanted to thank you," the man said. "Our daughter is safe because of what you did. All our children are safe because you didn't wait for permission to act." Jake shook their hands. "I was just doing what any parent would do, what any decent person would do." After they left, Jake continued his walk. He passed groups of school children on field trips, their teachers explaining the history of the memorials. Human children played alongside young aliens from species that had joined the Mutual Defense Coalition. It was the kind of peaceful mixing that humanity had hoped for when first joining the galactic community. But now that peace was backed by something solid. Not just hope and good intentions, but proven strength and unwavering commitment to protecting the innocent. At the defense headquarters, Admiral Beth Harrison ran the morning briefing. She had taken over as Supreme Commander when Jake retired. The job was demanding, but she handled it with the same efficiency she had shown during the raid on Kuroth's fortress. "Status. Report," she ordered. Young officer pulled up displays showing human space and the surrounding territories, all borders secure. The sensor network detected 3 unauthorized approaches this week, all turned away when challenged. No incidents. "Good. What's the status of our coalition partners?" "Growing. 2 more species have applied for membership. The Vrixil and the Tamari. Both passed preliminary security checks." Beth nodded. The Mutual Defense Coalition had grown from its original 5 species to 18. All of them were smaller powers that had been ignored or exploited by the Galactic Council. Together they were becoming a significant force in galactic politics. "Approve their applications pending final review," Beth decided. "What about the Council?" The officer changed displays. "The Council continues their reform efforts. They've established a new enforcement division specifically for combating trafficking and slavery. Early reports suggest they're actually taking it seriously this time." "Better late than never," Beth said dryly, "though it cost them their credibility and half their membership." The Galactic Council had indeed changed. After humanity's departure and the exposure of their corruption, 6 other species had left to join the coalition. Several more had threatened to leave unless real reforms happened. The Council's new leadership had no choice but to act. They established strict laws against slavery and trafficking. They created enforcement teams with real power to investigate and arrest criminals. They even invited human observers to monitor their efforts, though President Walsh had declined. Trust, once broken, took time to rebuild. Dr. Helen Price was now the director of the Xenological Research Institute, humanity's leading center for studying alien species and technology. Her office overlooked a massive laboratory where scientists from multiple species worked together on various projects. Today, she was meeting with a delegation from the Yalith, a species that had suffered greatly under Zelthani predation. The Yalith looked like tall, thin beings with silvery skin and large eyes. They were peaceful herbivores who had lost thousands of their people to slavers over the centuries. "Dr. Price, we want to thank humanity again for what you did," the lead Yalith diplomat said. "When the Zelthani took our people, the Council told us to be patient, to follow procedures. 50 years of procedures never brought anyone home. You brought them all home in 3 months." Helen felt a familiar mix of pride and sadness. "We did what needed to be done. I only wish we could have acted sooner before so many suffered." "The important thing is that you acted at all," the diplomat replied. "Most powerful species ignore the weak. Humanity fights for them. That's why we want to join your coalition formally." "We'd be honored to have you," Helen said sincerely. After the meeting, Helen looked out at the stars visible through her office window. Humanity had never wanted to be warriors or enforcers. They had come to the stars hoping to learn and grow and make friends. The Zelthani had forced them to become something else, but perhaps that was okay. Perhaps the galaxy needed someone willing to stand up for those who couldn't defend themselves. Emma Collins was finishing her final year at the Interspecies Academy, a school established by the Coalition to train diplomats and ambassadors who understood multiple cultures. She was one of the top students, fluent in 6 alien languages and respected by classmates from a dozen different worlds. Today she was giving a presentation about human culture and history. Her classmates, a mix of humans and aliens, listened as she explained Earth's long history of conflict and how it shaped humanity's current values. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other, Emma explained. Wars over land, resources, religion, politics. We know violence intimately. We understand war in ways many species don't. A Vrixel student raised a small limb. Does that make humans more violent than other species? Emma shook her head. It makes us more aware of violence's cost. We know what war does to families, to children, to innocents. That's why we value peace so highly. And that's why we react so strongly when someone threatens our families. We know exactly what we're capable of, and we know exactly what we're preventing. She pulled up images of the memorial parks, the defense networks, the coalition fleets. After the Zelthani took us, humanity could have become isolationist. We could have closed our borders and refused to interact with the galaxy. Instead, we chose to make the galaxy safer for everyone. That's the real human nature. We protect. After class, Emma met with her advisor, Professor Kelvin, a human who had been a young diplomat during the Zelthani crisis. Excellent presentation, Emma. You really captured humanity's complexity. Thank you, Professor. I wanted them to understand that we're not violent by nature. We're protective by nature. There's a difference. There is indeed, Kelvin agreed. Have you decided what you want to do after graduation? Emma had been thinking about that a lot. I want to work with the Coalition's youth protection programs, making sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Kelvin smiled proudly. You'll be excellent at that. On a space station in neutral territory, a meeting was taking place that would have been impossible 10 years ago. Representatives from the Galactic Council were sitting down with representatives from the Mutual Defense Coalition to discuss cooperation on combating crime and protecting civilians. Ambassador Lisa Morgan led the coalition delegation. She had left the council in protest 10 years ago and now served as the coalition's chief diplomat. Across from her sat Chairman Voss, a new Valen leader who had been elected after the old council leadership resigned in disgrace. Ambassador Morgan, the council wants to work together on anti-trafficking operations, Chairman Voss said. We've learned from our mistakes. We've established proper enforcement divisions. We want to prove we've changed. Lisa studied him carefully. Voss hadn't been part of the corrupt old leadership. He seemed genuinely committed to reform, but trust took time. The coalition is willing to share intelligence on criminal networks, Lisa said carefully. We're willing to coordinate on joint operations, but we maintain independent authority to act when we deem necessary. No more waiting for committees to debate while people suffer. Agreed, Voss said without hesitation. The council's new charter includes rapid response protocols. No more bureaucratic delays when lives are at risk. They spent 3 hours working out details. It wasn't a reunion and it wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Perhaps given enough time and proof of real change, humanity might consider rejoining the council. But that day was still far in the future. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of an orbital station above Earth, watching supply ships come and go. He had been invited to speak at a military academy graduation. The young officers being commissioned today had all been children when the Zelthani crisis happened. They grew up knowing the price of weakness and the value of vigilance. Beth Harrison joined him at the window. Thinking deep thoughts? She asked with a slight smile. Just remembering, Jake replied. 10 years ago, I was a captain at a peaceful colony, thinking the most dangerous thing I'd face was budget meetings. Now look at us, we adapted, Beth said. That's what humans do best. The Zelthani thought they understood us.